Hi, I'm Brian and welcome to Munros for Dogs. On this trip we set out to summit 5 Munros over 2 days with a spot of wild camping in between. Unfortunately we only managed to summit 4 out of the 5 that we planned. Glass to Lucan turned out to be the Munro too far. And at the end of the video you'll actually see a map of the route I'd planned for the 2 days. There is an alternate section added to the route, as you'll see once you get there. I took it thinking it might have been a better way on the way out, but it turned out to be a lot worse. And Socach was going to be our first Munro. The walk-in from the car park, if you can call it a car park, is actually really nice. A decent track all the way in, and you'll eventually hit a Carn, as you can see in the video, which indicates to leave the track and start heading up to the Munro itself. Just be aware there are a lot of sheep on your walk into the Carn, so if your dog is a chaser, definitely keep them on the lead for this section. Once you leave the jeep track and start heading up to Munro, it's not too bad a route. There are some areas that have potential to be very boggy if you're doing it in crappy weather. The terrain itself isn't too bad either, considering we were carrying all our kit for wild camping. The first one didn't really slow us down that much. If you are looking for a nice easy single Munro to do, this is the one for you. You're not going to have any problem getting to summit and then simply backtracking the way you came. And before you know it, you actually get to a nice big plateau. You're on the plateau for quite a while before you actually reach the summit. The summit's on the far end, so all your kind of hard work is done at this point, and you've really just got a nice walk into the summit itself. As you can see, nothing difficult so far. The plateau is made up of rocky tracks, some grass, not any bouldery sections, but there is some kind of rocky sections that you have to kind of traverse over, but nothing too difficult. We were lucky enough to get some nice views that day, but compared to other routes we've done, they weren't overly impressive. It's sad to say that the Munros of the southwest Cairngorms aren't overly impressive. Sometimes it does feel like a tick box exercise just to get them done, but Munro bagging should never feel that way. We all climb these hills for our own private reasons, and we should enjoy them the way we want to enjoy them. After spending time on the summit, it was now time to head to our second Monro, Carn Bhac. This Monro was not going to make it easy for us to get to it. First we had to come down from our first summit, which for us ended up being a very steep descent as we're too far over to the left hand side. If you're going to do this route, push further over to the right and you'll have a much easier time. My route at the end does actually have the proper route on it, not the one that we went down. Once you're down, you've got to traverse some rough terrain, some baby heads, some bogs, and then you've got to find a cairn, cross over a river, and you'll pick up a quad bike track that takes you up to the second Monro. The track does push you over to the left as you're taking it up towards the summit. And be aware this area is used for grouse hunting. You'll actually see a few stations where they actually shoot the grouse as they're flying up. I've got a gun dog, golden retriever, and all of his instincts and senses were kicking in this area. There's one of the stations there where I believe they shoot from. As I said, Cody's instincts were all on fire as we were heading up, so he wasn't listening as much as he normally does, and he even managed to find a grouse in the terrain and grabbed it with his mouth. Because golden retrievers' mouths are very soft, he didn't actually hurt it. The grouse was obviously very shaken up and just scurried back into its hole. So if you do have a gun dog and you move into this area, just be aware this can happen. Cody was in the lead every so often when he started acting really funny. And here we are heading to our second summit. We were getting quite tired at this point. The terrain was sapping our energy, especially with our heavy packs, so we're quite glad to get this one in the bag. This was not the trip that Charlotte and myself had planned for ourselves this weekend. We were actually planning on doing the Mhor 12. However, the information we were getting from the Met Office was showing that it wouldn't have been a good time to do those Monros, so we ended up doing these ones instead. It's always good to have different Monros in your back pocket just in case the area you wanted to go to ends up being rubbish weather. Then you can simply check the weather in another part of Scotland and just go and do those Monros instead. We knew that our second day we'd get some clag and some low cloud, but it didn't really matter as the views in these Monros aren't spectacular compared to the Mhor 12. We were now heading towards Beinn, Mhor, where I had planned to do a summit camp on, despite the fact that there was a perfectly good campsite just below the Monro itself with a nice little water source. But I was fixated on actual summit camping, rather than picking the best point to pitch our tent. Because the terrain takes a lot out of you, we didn't actually reach our third Monro. We were quite tired, so we did pitch at the water source, which really I should have planned for, and it is the best place to camp if you're going to do it. Even just getting to the base of Monro, this terrain really takes it out of you. We were lucky, we had quite a big dry spell, so this area would be a nightmare in the wet. As you can see, there's a lot of peat scattered around. It'd be really boggy, but for us, a lot of it was actually quite dry. And here we are at the base of Munro. There's a nice big water source here, as you can see. Perfect for pitching our tent and replenishing all our water and having water to cook. So after a night camping on the hills, it was time to get back to summiting Munros. We were heading for Beinn, Bhac, Mhor. The clag had massively rolled in since we pitched our tent the day before. The visibility couldn't have been more than 20 metres, and sometimes even less than that once we got closer to the summit. Because of this and the fact that the summit's quite a big plateau, it was actually quite hard to find the top itself. But with both Charlotte and myself navigating and check navigating, we managed to find our way to the summit. Once we had our fill of photos at the top, it was time to enjoy the view of, well, the clag.
Cody. Charlotte.
We were now on our way to Carn and Righ, which would end up being our last Munro of the day. Even in the clag that we had, it wasn't actually that hard to get to this Munro. There are some obvious tracks that take you along the route, and there's a decent track that takes you all the way up the Munro itself.
Smile.
Continuing the trend for this day, we got no views, unlike the day before. After coming back down the Munro the way you came, you then hit a track that takes you along the side of Galas to Lucan. It's just on the right hand side of you as you're walking along. I was hoping to get this one done, however, because of the terrain we had the day before and we still had our heavy packs on, we decided we're just going to give that a miss and we'll get it on another day. As it turned out, Galas to Lucan was the Munro too far. Overall, there's nothing on these 4 Munros that are going to affect you or your dogs. Just be aware of the sheep that are scattered about every so often, and obviously the grouse area if you've got a gun dog. Also, the small lake that you can just see ahead of us is actually a really good spot for also if you want to wild camp in this area. We did make a slight detour at the end of our route. We didn't actually follow the route I'd planned. I had thought I found a better way out through one of the other valleys, but the terrain ended up being really challenging. We did eventually rejoin my route, and as you can see, we're now on a decent track on the walk out. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Also leave a comment, and we shall see you all on our next adventure.